Kathy stepped inside, impeccably composed. With the stiff-backed poise of a disapproving governess, she seized Jenny's arm, levelled a slender finger at her face, and hissed. I'm utterly baffled by your recent conduct. I haven't the faintest idea what possessed you yesterday, nor can I fathom what madness is going on in your mind, but you must regain your composure at once. Jenny's breath caught as she backed up against the wall. What? Kathy's eye narrowed with chilling precision. Do you wish to be carted off to some ghastly institution, or worse, thrown into the custody of the police? Jenny blinked, confused. For what? I haven't done anything. Kathy exhaled sharply, and her voice dropping. Sit down, Jenny. Now listen. You've done something, Jenny. You've been seen behaving in the most unseemly manner, wandering alone, dishevelled and incoherent, babbling about nonsensical contraptions and imaginary freedoms. She leaned closer, her breath warm against Jenny's cheek. You are dangerously close to being labelled hysterical. And you know what happens to hysterical women, don't you? Jenny's eyes widened. What? What do you mean? Kathy's expression softened slightly, pitying, almost maternal, but her voice remained firm. She clasped Jenny's hand gently, as though preparing to explain a harsh truth to a fragile child. Jenny, dearest, she began, her tone dropping. When a woman's behaviour is deemed erratic or ungovernable, well, society has its methods of handling such matters. She gave a delicate shrug. First, you'll be removed from your home and examined by a physician, one who specialises in female madness. Her lips curved ever so slightly. Such men are quite experts at identifying hysteria, and once diagnosed... She released Jenny's hands and sat back and folded her arms. They'll declare you unfit, incapable of rational thought. You'll be committed to a sanitarium. She arched a brow. Have you heard of those places, Jenny? The women's asylums, rows of iron beds, vacant-eyed souls who once had lives, once had families, but no longer. You'll be dosed until your mind is soft and compliant. Jenny's throat went dry. Kathy tilted her head. You'll be subjected to remedies, of course, a bit of bloodletting, and if you persist in your delusions, the doctors will grow, creative. She smiled almost sweetly. They might try hydrotherapy, tied to a chair and submerged in cold water for hours, or perhaps electric shock treatment, merely a few jolts to the temple, to scramble your brain just enough to make you docile. Jenny's entire body stiffened. Kathy's eyes softened with mock sympathy. She gently stroked Jenny's trembling hand. And the most tragic part, she added softly, no one would question it. James would sign the papers without hesitation, for your own good, naturally. She sighed. Your children would be told you were taken away for rest. They'd grow up thinking you were simply fragile, and in time they would forget you altogether. Jenny's chest tightened. And that, my darling, is what happens to women who persist in behaving irrationally. You may think yourself strong-willed and defiant, but it would take no more than a handful of whispered rumours to see you whisked away permanently. Her eyes locked with Jenny's. I refuse to let that happen. She then gave Jenny's hand a reassuring squeeze, which is why you must stop this nonsense. Jenny's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know. Kathy smiled thinly, but I know, and you will listen to me. Tears welled in Jenny's eyes. Her voice wavered. I don't understand. Everything is wrong. I can't find my laptop, my shorts, the computers. There's no dishwasher. I opened the pantry and I found lard in a tin. Why would anyone store fat in a tin? It's just madness. With a long-suffering sigh, Kathy plucked a teacup from the tray and pressed it into Jenny's trembling hands. Drink this at once. Now, she said, tell me everything. Jenny did. Throughout the tale, Kathy's face cycled through a series of increasingly disbelieving expressions. One arched brow here, one sceptical twitch of the lips there. When Jenny finally finished, Kathy pressed her fingers to her temples as though warding off a migraine, and exhaled through her nose with the restraint of a woman too polite to scream. Allow me to acquaint you with reality, she said, her voice dripping with forced patience. And do listen carefully, darling. I shan't repeat myself. Jenny braced herself. You're describing a fantasy, Kathy began. A fever dream, an absurd fiction. You are a woman. You cannot work. It is indecent. The only suitable positions for ladies are those of nurses, midwives, governesses, or perhaps secretaries, if one is fortunate and has connections. Even then, positions are scarce. And Jenny, to be frank, you're not exactly the type. Jenny gawped. I beg your pardon? Kathy's lips quirked in a mockingly sympathetic smile. No offence, you are perfectly adequate, of course, but let's be honest, the pretty girls get hired first. Jenny's stomach twisted. You cannot be serious. Oh, but I am. Kathy's eyes glittered. Women are not permitted to drive. It's far too dangerous. The very notion of you behind the wheel of a motor car makes my blood run cold. Jenny's mouth fell open. What? But what about things like dishwashers, mobile phones, computers? Kathy blinked slowly. What are you blathering on about, darling? Those things do not exist. And may I ask, why were you gallivanting about in such a place yesterday, without the proper accompaniment of a gentleman? Jenny's blood ran cold. So, Kathy concluded, something is clearly amiss with you. We will sort it out. But you must cease this bizarre drivel, especially in front of James or any man, or you'll be deemed hysterical and carted away. She softened slightly, taking Jenny's hand. I simply couldn't bear to lose you, she whispered. And the children, why, they'd be inconsolable. Jenny swallowed hard, the weight of Kathy's words pressing down on her chest like iron. She clutched the teacup, hands trembling slightly. She was trapped. She could feel it. The walls of this foreign reality closing in, suffocating her with every perfectly arranged cushion and precisely ironed tablecloth. She took a shallow breath and glanced up at Kathy, her voice barely audible. What year is it? Kathy, reclining with elegant ease, arched a perfectly manicured brow. The year? She repeated slowly. Why, it's 2025, of course. Jenny's fingers tightened around the cup. She nodded slowly. Right, she murmured. So I haven't time-travelled. She exhaled sharply, which means I've either had a stroke or I'm in an alternative universe. For a moment, Kathy simply stared at her, one hand poised delicately on the arm of the chair. Then, with an indulgent smile, Oh, you do amuse me, darling, she purred, her eyes glittering. Tell me then, what is this other universe like, The one which you've apparently been plucked. Jenny stared at her, wild-eyed, and let out a breathless, almost desperate laugh. She leaned forward, disbelief widening in her eyes. A nightmare, she declared, her voice trembling slightly. Women are expected to work full-time. We're supposed to achieve the same professional success as men, while simultaneously looking after the children, keeping the house pristine, cooking, cleaning, running errands, and of course, staying slim and attractive, or be judged for letting ourselves go. Kathy blinked slowly. Jenny was gaining momentum now, words spilling out faster and more frenzied. Every household is double taxed, so both partners have to work just to stay afloat. You need 2 cars just to survive. People grind through the same joyless routine all year long, just so that they can afford a single week-long holiday in some other country, while they're still stressed, still worried, still feeling as though they're not doing enough. Kathy's lips parted slightly. She looked faintly horrified, but the glimmer of polite amusement in her gaze remained. Jenny pressed on, her voice rising. And the judgment. Oh, the judgment is endless. She threw up her hands. If you work too much, you're a selfish mother, neglectful and cold. But if you stay home, you're seen as lazy, ambitionless, leeching off your husband and wasting your potential. She let out a bitter laugh. And, to top it off, you're poor, because one income isn't enough anymore. You're damned either way. Her voice wavered. It's a constant battle to find balance, and no one wins. Families are falling apart because they have no time to be families. She stared into her tea, knuckles white against the porcelain. And we're told we have all these freedoms and opportunities, but no one tells you the price of having it all is having nothing left for yourself. Jenny looked up at Kathy with desperation raw in her eyes. It's exhausting, she said. For a moment, Kathy simply stared. Then quite suddenly she burst into a soft laugh. Jenny blinked, startled. Oh, you poor, poor dear, Kathy said, dabbing at the corner of her eye with a lace-trimmed handkerchief as though she was wiping away a tear. You mean to tell me that you had a career, the freedom to drive, and the means to travel the world, and you found it exhausting? She chuckled while shaking her head. My goodness, Jenny, I simply cannot imagine the horror. Jenny's jaw dropped. The horror? Kathy's laughter was light, almost musical. Oh, you poor lamb. You had so many dreadful liberties, careers, independence, holidays abroad. My stars, however did you survive? Jenny scowled. You're missing the point. Kathy waved her hands dismissively. Oh no, darling, I think I understand perfectly. She leaned in, eyes twinkling with mischief. While you were burdened with all that frightful independence, I, meanwhile, am here in this universe, free to stay at home all day and enjoy lunch with my dearest friend. How utterly tragic for me. Jenny narrowed her eyes. You're mocking me. Kathy grinned wickedly. And you are being ridiculous. So, let me understand. In your universe, women can work, drive, travel, control their own finances, or they can stay at home if they choose. And this is somehow dreadful. Jenny opened her mouth to argue, but no words came. Kathy sat back. The very notion of choosing one's lot in life, how utterly dreadful. Jenny rubbed her temples. This was going nowhere. Kathy patted her knee. Now, she soothed. You're quite clearly dehydrated. No wonder your perception has been affected. She rose with a fluid grace. I shall make her husband's lunch today, and you, my dear, shall lie on the sofa and sip your tea. I shan't breathe a word of this nonsense to anyone. We will simply say that you've taken a chill. Jenny slumped back against the cushions. Hollow, her mind swelled. No computers, no dishwashers. She stared into her tea when suddenly a memory flickered. Her daughter Molly bouncing through the front door on International Women's Day. Guess what, Mum? A woman invented the internet, the dishwasher, and so many other things. At the time, Jenny had barely listened. She was too engrossed in work emails. But now the memory struck her with the force of a blow. Her breath caught. What if? No way, she thought. Kathy's voice floated from the kitchen. Did you strike your head on a rock in the sea yesterday? No, Jenny called back faintly. I went snorkelling and fell asleep on the sand. The moment the words left her mouth, her eyes widened. The realisation hit like a slap. She bolted upright, running into the kitchen. Kathy, she gasped, I wished for this. I was so overwhelmed, I didn't want to leave the beach. So I wish I didn't have to work anymore. I wish that all the female advocates and important women in history would just die. Kathy turned sharply, eyes wide. Jenny's hands flew over her mouth. Oh my God, did I actually cause them to die? She staggered back, trembling. I feel terrible, but at the same time, Kathy's hands brushed over her arm, soothing yet condescending, like calming a disorientated child. Well, she said lightly, there we go then. You wanted this, so enjoy it. She squeezed Jenny's hand delicately, and not a word to anyone, especially not James. Your secret is safe with me. Jenny's stomach tightened. With a graceful flick of her wrists, Kathy said, I shall take Molly to etiquette class this evening, she announced airily, and you, my dear, shall have the entire day to yourself. You shall have a splendid day of leisure. A few hours to collect yourself, to get a proper grip on whatever this is. The first 24 hours are a reaction, Jenny. After that, it's a choice. Feeling drained, Jenny retreated upstairs. Alone in the bedroom, she scribbled frantically in her journal, trying to make sense of it all. Downstairs, she vaguely heard Kathy speaking to James. Oh, she's upstairs with a fever, Kathy said lightly. I'm sure she'll be right as rain tomorrow. I'll handle everything today. And so she did.